Get in the know. Nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Yeah, what's happening? This is Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. That's all we want. 60 years. It's not that much to ask for, really. Come on now. This is Purple After Dark. Every Tuesday night during the season at 11 p.m. Central Time. Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, our executive producer, Declan Goff, and the one and only, he has his own YouTube channel. You can check it out. He is Realistic Randy. What's going on, fellas? How we doing on this Tuesday night? Coming out of bye week, Dallas Cowboys on the horizon in prime time on Sunday night.
I'm ready for a game.
Yeah, man.
I'm ready for a game. I'm like chomping at the bit right now. Give me a game. And by the way, the bye week, you know, you ordinarily get some games where you're like, this is great. I'm not invested. I don't care. I'm just going to sit back and watch. That slate of 6 noon games was not.
Oh, it was horrible.
It was not good. It was not good. So I am ready to watch Dallas and the Vikings clash in the first of 4 games that I think are going to be very interesting, Randy.
And you know what's funny? As much as I was bitching and moaning, saying the bye week, the timing of the bye week was perfect because the first 6 games, they all came super close, except for Seattle. All right, we need a break. Just take a breather. This is way too stressful. I'm ready for Vikings football too, but what really sucks is that, okay, instead of going from your team doesn't play in 2 weeks, it's almost like your team doesn't play for 15 days. We have to go through the first 2 rotations of games and then wait till Sunday night to watch Vikings football. So we have to end our day with Vikings football.
Dude.
So it's just a tease. Let's get it done.
And it's actually it's 3 rotations if you count Thursday night, and we get Packers and Cardinals, 1 combined loss this week without pretty much all of Green Bay's receivers. Devontae Adams probably not going to play in that game. But all right, let's waste no more time. Realistic Randy, what's on your mind this week?
So fresh off the bye week, 3-3, essentially continuing the season with a clean slate, with your next 4 games being the gauntlet of the season. And after the first 6 games of the season for the Vikings, here's what we know defensively. Before the season started, gentlemen, on this YouTube channel, I said the Vikings would be number 1 against the run. Right now, they're 26th. So just a shade off. No big deal.
Yeah, there's plenty of time. We've got 2/3 of the season left.
They're going to catch up. They're giving up like 128 rushing yards a game. No big deal. No Patrick Peterson. That's a massive loss for the secondary. But the Vikings have an elite pass rush, tied for first in the league in sacks. So that should at least help the secondary out. And they're 13th in scoring defense. So bend but don't break, which is okay, but probably not what I'd imagine that Mike Zimmer had in mind before the season started. But that's okay. You know why? Because, at least personnel-wise anyway, the Vikings have one of the most unstoppable offenses in the league. Let your receivers make plays, stretching the field. Let Dalvin Cook move the chains and drain clock. And it doesn't matter as far as, well, let the run set up the pass, let the pass set up the run. It doesn't matter. They can set each other up. And the offensive line has played a lot better than years past, but it still has its issues. The one that sticks out the most to me right now, Oli Udoh. 7 penalties, 6 accepted, 4 holding calls. The Vikings, they can't continue going on allowing a single player to consistently kill drive. So that needs to get cleaned up real quick. And lastly, on the coaching situation with Mike Zimmer, coach to win the game. If you all of a sudden get a lead and, all right, stop the presses, everything we just did to get the lead, throw it in the trash. We're gonna run the ball, drain clock. Let's escape with a victory. If the game plan is to consistently hope that opposing teams will, by the goodness of their hearts, just let you walk away with the victory, you're not talent-wise, you're going to win 8 or 9 games baseline, but that's where it stops. That's where the ceiling is going to end. Coach aggressive, coach to win the game.
Do you think, though, and because to me, Randy, this is the most important thing coming out of the bye. and it's an unknown question, and I fear I know the answer, and it's not going to be positive. Do you think that in their self-scout and evaluation of the first 6 games, the coaching staff has the wherewithal and ability to say, this is actually more on us than the players? Because everything that you just said is absolutely true. But what you just said is your team, like it or not, built on offense, right? So do you have, it's not that your defense stinks, it's just that it's not a top 5. It's okay, but it's not great. Do you think that they have the ability to make the adjustment, which is not to say we need a lot more from our personnel, it's to say we need to think differently from a coaching standpoint? Because that's my biggest question going into Sunday night.
I don't think so, just because what we've seen the first 6 games is a reflection of what we've seen the last 8 years or the last 7 years prior with Mike Zimmer. He wants to run the football. He wants to control the clock. He wants to play defense. Anytime there's a lead, they get scared and they basically play prevent defense. And, okay, any chance we have of extending our lead, nah, that's okay. We're just going to run the ball and punt it to the other team. That's what we've seen. I don't see all of a sudden 7 years of the same thing changing after 6 weeks. It should. But like I said, I think this was last week. There is no Pat Shurmur. There is no one there that can really get in Mike Zimmer's ear, at least from the outside looking in. So I think they're going to continue what they've been doing. The difference is these next 4 games, you've got Dallas on Halloween night. You've got the Chargers. You've got the Packers. You've got Baltimore. Those are teams that if you allow them to stay in the game, they will crush you. This isn't the Panthers. This isn't the Lions. They are going to make you pay for it. So hopefully it's one of those things where, okay, Mike Zimmer had a come to Jesus moment. All right, you know what? What am I doing? Let's switch this whole thing up. We're going to go pedal to the metal, damn it. I think that's more fantasy than reality.
No. Boys, I saw a really interesting stat come across some random Instagram page. I don't know. I'm just going to, if I see it on Instagram, I'm just going to believe it pretty much at this point.
Fact, yeah.
So Kirk Cousins is the only quarterback in the NFL this season with 2 or fewer turnovers, combining interceptions with lost fumbles. He only has 3 fumbles on the season. Now, keep in mind, his last year in Washington, he was a very chronic fumbler. He had 13 fumbles, which was among the league leaders for quarterbacks. So, it's amazing. Like, all these stats have always been there regarding Kirk, right? He just became one of the youngest players ever to reach another milestone that, like, only Dan Marino. Like, every day there's, like, a new Cousins stat. And so you have to sort of sift through what's sort of junk and – what are the stats that are just, hey, guys, throw the ball more in this era of football versus what is a stat that tells you he's different? I think the lack of turnovers compared to the 11 picks or whatever he had in the first, 6 games last year. And I think the late game, just his ability to rise up in these must-pass situations has been different. And I am now very curious to see, because you could still make the case. That's great. But he can't beat winning teams like his whole career. And especially with the Vikings, Kirk Cousins' teams don't beat teams that finish the season above 500. And right now, their losses are to the Bengals. They're the 1 seed in the AFC. They got a loss to the undefeated Cardinals, right? Well, it's not his fault because Greg Joseph missed a kick, but it's still a loss on Kirk Cousins' resume. Beat the Cowboys. Like, this can be, like, Kirk can officially get to a new level here, not only with, I think, Vikings fans who still haven't fully bought in necessarily, and I'm not necessarily fully bought in yet either, and the national perception. This game has so much on the line for so many reasons for the team and for Kirk, and I could not be more excited to watch it play out.
This is why I'm so scared right now, because of the level of excitement. Every time that and there's belief and hope and, oh my God, this team, they could really do something. That's when everything falls apart. And they're on prime time. That's when it's magnified, when the whole nation watches the Minnesota Vikings. Is, oh my goodness, what could go wrong? They always find multitude of ways to just screw up. But Kirk Cousins, he's playing like a top 5 quarterback. He's keeping his eyes on his receivers. He's better at pocket awareness. I think we saw towards the end of the 2020 season, his ability to evade pressure towards the end. And I think it's continuing where it left off this season in 2021. Kirk Cousins, he is, if the coach allows him to be great, the offensive line there for the most part doing their jobs. But if the play calling matches up with Kirk Cousins based on how he's playing this year and the receivers that you have, then it's to the point where the defense, you have mercy on whatever the Vikings offense wants to do. Because then as soon as you say, okay, let's worry about these receivers. Oh, that's right. They also have Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins has elevated his game. I think also the supporting cast has been much better. Defensively, that's a whole different situation. It's better than 2020, but that's a super low bar to eclipse. Allow your quarterback and your offense to be great, and good things will happen. It's okay. The Vikings fans, they will love Mike Zimmer forever if they can win a Super Bowl. We don't care if it's the number one offense in the league and the 29th ranked defense in the league.
Yes.
We don't care. Get it done. We'll love you forever. Mike Zimmer, if he were able to pull that off, however the team was able to do it, he would be right there with Vikings legends like Randy Moss. You would be right there. They would build a statue for you tomorrow if that were to happen.
There'd be a street.
Yeah.
Zimmer way.
If that happened, real quick, Judd, because you're the only one of us that sort of caught a whiff of like the Bud Grant era.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the end of the Bud Grant era.
Yeah.
If somehow Zimmer were to make some adjustments, whatever it looks like, and the Vikings this year or next year were to win a Super Bowl, would Mike Zimmer then be considered the greatest Vikings coach in history?
Okay, this is a weird town, so that there will always be the Bud stands. But yeah, if you won a Super Bowl, like if you win a Super Bowl, think about that for a second.
But yes, Bud went to 4 in the 70s.
I know, but he never won one. If you won a Super Bowl, you would. I mean, think about this one. How differently would we think of Denny Green today in '98 if they had just followed through? Like that team was a Super Bowl team, no question about it, right?
Yeah.
Like what would be? Denny Green was a damn good coach. Like he was quirky, and I get that, but he was a good coach. But think about what the legacy of Dennis Green would be in this town if that team had followed through and fulfilled its potential and won a Super Bowl. There'd be a street named after him. He would be, the praise would be incredible. So yes, I think if you win a Super Bowl, you haven't been to one since 77. Yeah, you would be the greatest coach.
Denny and Zimmer are basically on the same plane, right? They've Denny was around for a couple of years longer. They both neither one of them really had train wreck seasons until the end for Denny. They were always in playoff contention. He
got the playoffs more, yeah.
Denny probably had more playoff appearances, but yeah. Denny popped up once with the best offense. Zimmer popped up once with the best defense. They've both been to the conference championship game. Denny went there twice or 3 times. Did they go?
They went against Atlanta. They went 41 donut against the Giants, and no. Besides that,
it was the 2 times.
Twice.
So they're kind of on the same plane.
I got a hot take though. Here's my hot take: Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins' ability this year and his attributes and not turning over the football is fantastic. I would argue this, though. Coming out of the bye, and this would never happen at TCO Performance Center, but it should. If I am Zimmer and Clint Kubiak, I call Kirk in and say, okay, Kirk, first 6 games, you've been damn good. You've done a lot of good things. This is the best we've seen you. I don't know exactly why, but that's great. We are not going to hold it against you if you throw a few more picks. Now, I don't want fumbles. Let me make this clear. But again, I am going to go back to the biggest thing that I gleaned from watching Red Zone on Sunday was watching the Bengals and watching Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And to go back to what we talked about today with Alex Boone, the faith that they have in Joe Burrow, who, by the way, threw a really bad pick. But guess what? They didn't say, Joe, you are an idiot. You are in trouble. They clearly are empowering him. So I would actually say to Kirk, look, you got Jefferson, Thielen, Osborne's been great, right? I would empower him to say, if you make a mistake and throw a pick because you are being aggressive, not dumb, but aggressive, we're okay with that because that's how we're going to maximize this offense. Because I feel like the thing with Kirk is he's on eggshells because he's thinking first pick I throw, it's trouble, right? So I would actually, my hot take is I would make a case that starting on Sunday night, if Kirk throws a pick in trying to make something happen, it's not the worst thing because the idea is in the right place.
But that goes against the grain of Mike Zimmer because you remember 2017, Case Keenum, every single time he did some magical play to win games. Oh my God, Mike Zimmer would find something, anything to complain about it. But if Zimmer were to do that with Kirk and say, we trust you, we understand this team is, if they're going to have a chance to win, it's on offense. If he were to do that and say, Kirk, you've got the green light, do whatever the hell you want, I would praise him. I would say, Zim, that's growth. That's maturity as a head coach. Going back to the legendary status, though, what I will say is Andy Reid with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a legend with that franchise. They went to what? I believe 4 straight NFC championship games. They went to a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson, they won a championship. Mm-hmm. Whose statue is outside of the link right now? It's Doug Peterson with Nick Foles calling the Philly special. So, Bud Grant, great.
By the way, life comes at you fast if you're Philadelphia. That was not that long ago, and all of those guys are just ostracized and gone. But I digress.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if Zim were to do that and say, "I concede," you're still the head coach. So, however the team wins, you're still going to get credit. Who cares if the defense is not as great as you projected it to be?
Yeah,
let your quarterback go off.
It is an interesting point. Like, it feels like he's so obsessed with it being done the way that he wants it to be done sometimes. And it's like, dude, I mean, sometimes life's different. Like Mike Tomlin came into Pittsburgh as a defensive coach, and there's a lot of years in Pittsburgh. Their defense has mostly been solid under Mike Tomlin. There's some years in Pittsburgh where that offense for 4 or 5 years was top 5, top 10, and the defense was more middle of the pack. And Mike Tomlin still – people aren't looking over there like, oh, Mike Tomlin's a bad head coach. Looks like his defense is underperforming. They're like, oh, Mike Tomlin has become an all-encompassing great head coach. John Harbaugh has become an all-encompassing, adaptable great head coach. Another interesting nugget here under the file of nerd football stats.
Get those nerds! Nerds!
This one presented by our friends at TCL, by the way. TCL is providing some of the best and most cost-effective TVs on the market. If you're looking for the new lineup of award-winning TVs delivering the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost, TCL is the TV for you. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. Kirk Cousins, turnover-worthy plays this year. Only 4. Only 4, and this is Pro Football Focus, and this is largely interceptable passes, but it's also, if you did something reckless with the ball. Like, for instance, Trevor Lawrence, Taylor Heineke, and Ben Roethlisberger and Sam Darnold are all tied for the most turnover-worthy plays this year. They all have 12. They're just reckless. Just Sam Darnold just throwing the ball to whoever, Bashad Breeland. Russell Wilson, 0 turnover-worthy plays. He's missed a few games, but Tom Brady has 1 turnover-worthy play, and Kirk Cousins has 4. He's tied with Kyler Murray and Carson Wentz, who's usually a turnover machine.
Wow.
Has cut back. So you could say on one hand, Kirk, I don't need like 20 turnover-worthy plays, but you want to get frisky and throw a ball up for grabs in a key situation, I'm not going to get mad. But then I see these other great quarterbacks that limit the turnover-worthy plays and still give you the upside of the big plays without the risk, which has basically been Aaron Rodgers' whole career. Like Aaron Rodgers, it gives you Brett Favre upside. You get all the fruits of Brett Favre without any of the risk, basically. And I think all we'd like to see from Kirk is don't go Brett Favre 20 interceptions or throw across your body in the NFC Championship game.
Right.
But, if you want to throw a ball into traffic on 3rd down and 8, opponent's side of the field and Justin Jefferson's out there, it's okay. Go for the jugular.
When I see Burrow and Chase work together the way that they are right now, and I see what Jamar Chase is bringing as a rookie, who, by the way, was teammates with Jefferson. Looks like a great player, but I don't think that there's anyone sitting there saying, well, yeah, Jamar Chase is the real deal. And Justin Jefferson, he was seasoning. Like, these are two elite players. And as good as Jefferson's stats are, I got to think he watches the same thing, right? And thinks to himself, dude, that should be me. That could be me. So, yeah, I am in no way saying that Kirk Cousins should be unleashed and just throw that ball up there. I am saying that Kirk Cousins has arm talent. He is hot as can be right now as far as his play goes. And he has a receiver that when I watch Jamar Chase play, I'm like, okay, Justin Jefferson is right there too. So I would just like to see some more ideas for how to make those plays. And part of the equation then is empowering Kirk. If Kirk screws up, he is not going to get yelled at. He's not going to be in trouble. That's to me the next step. And yeah, the problem is Case Keenum. Now Case Keenum is not as good as Kirk, but yeah, he was having a special year in 2017, and Randy's exactly right. Like, every time he did something that I think we saw as, oh wow, it's his year, it's special. Mike said, "Oh, that is a disaster.
That's awfully risky."
That is, and do you have the ability to recognize one thing, which is at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback. I mean, Kirk Cousins is flat out a better player, which is why I would trust him a little bit more.
Well, if you look at what happened with Stephon Diggs, that's essentially why I agree with him. The reason why he wanted out, just the way he went about it, he was just a petulant child and whined his way on Twitter to get out. But that's beside the point. The Stephon Diggs situation, I would think after that, and the fact that you were blessed with going from one great receiver to another without skipping a beat. I mean, okay, that's wonderful. But also, there should be something you learn from that if you're the Vikings, if you're the coaching staff, saying we cannot allow this to happen again. I could see that happening again if it continues how it's been so far, whereas you're flirting with a 500 season, or I guess because there's 17 games, you'll win 8 or 9 games, but allow your quarterback. The play calling, I think they trust in Kirk. I think the players, they believe in him. I think his receivers believe in him. The offensive line, Brian O'Neill, he's a gangsta-ass dude. He will protect Kirk Cousins at all costs. They believe in Kirk. It's just, will the coaching staff believe in him? Because when you forfeit possessions, that's not allowing your quarterback to treat his receiver in Justin Jefferson like a Jamar Chase. Unleash this dude. I'm not saying have him throw 50 passes a game, but I mean, there are so many times where they should be a top 3 to 5 scoring offense in the league. They really, really should.
I agree.
There's no excuse for that. It's just in situational coaching. Let your players go off and good things will happen.
Yep. The Vikings are like 11th right now in average points per game offensively, and which is fine. It's fine.
It's okay.
I think a lot of, and this was a point I made on the Alex Boone episode of Purple Daily earlier today too. It's like our expectations sometimes are just trained following this team to sit right around like fringe top 10, right? Like, oh, they're kind of a fringe top 10 team. They're on pace for like 9 or 10 wins or whatever. Oh, it's like the 11th best offense. That's pretty darn good. And that's fine if you want to eke into the playoffs. But what's the special thing about this team that can be magnified more coming out of the bye week? And I think it's offense. What needs to happen for them to go from like a fringe top 10 offense to being a bona fide top 5 offense that's scoring 30 points a game like the Bills do, like the Titans have been lately. So I just let's raise our expectations here. The other thing too that we talked about on Purple Daily earlier today, Randy, was most people are saying the Vikings just need to go 2-2 in these next 4 games and keep their season going forward, and then they'll be 5-5, and then if they can eke out 2 out of 3 here, and then it's like, all right, if they go 2-2 over these next 4 games, how does that prove that they're reaching their max potential? Like I get 2-2 keeps you from being out of it, and it probably keeps you in playoff position. But if you think the Vikings have a chance to do more than they've done so far this year, and if you want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl, you should be looking for 3-1 or even 4-0. Go beat these teams. Go beat Baltimore on the road. Beat Dallas on a Sunday night. It's like, why can't the Vikings do that? It's year 8. It's Mike Zimmer. It's Kirk Cousins. You got weapons all over the field. Go do it. Go beat the Cowboys. Then go beat the Ravens on the road, right? It's like, oh, I don't know. If they split those games, it's okay. It's okay if you want to be 500. If you want to win 11 games or 12 games and go to the Super Bowl and play home games in January, then you need to win like 3 or 4 of your next 4 games, in my opinion.
But the Vikings aren't coached. That's my problem here. Like, from a player standpoint and a team standpoint, Phil, you're exactly right. But I don't feel like they're coached to do that.
Step on throats.
Where's the swagger? You barely beat Detroit. You barely beat Carolina in 2 games that you led fairly comfortably if you finish the process, right?
But here's the thing: the Rams barely beat. But you can reframe this. Like if I've never coached a day of even middle school football in my life, but like the Rams almost lost to the Lions at home too. So you can reframe this to say, all right, teams have bad games, but look at us. Look at the end of these games. We can pull these games out. Like I think there's ways to either motivate or reframe and spin it in a.
But do they have that swagger? That's my question. Because so far, I don't see that. I don't see it internally, and that's what I want. I want to look at this team and think 3-1, very possible.
You like that?
4-0,
You like that?
possible. I don't see it from the top, Randy.
I think, for what it's worth, I think last week I said that over the next 4 games, the Vikings, they would go 2-2. I'm going to stick with that. But they have all the talent in the world to go at least 3-1. I would say that one for sure loss would be Baltimore, just because Lamar Jackson, I think he would outrun the edges both sides unless Daniil Hunter absolutely goes off, which we know he's capable of doing, but it also requires our linebackers, Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, to really control the sidelines. This team has, all the talent in the world to go 3-1. I am tired of this team just floating around and maybe getting into the playoffs. And, I think I saw this graphic. Well, if the playoffs started right now, the Vikings, they would be the 7th seed and they would go up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, at least they would be in it. I'm tired of seeing this team waste away opportunities after opportunities to where, yeah, you know what? The Vikings, they could be 5-1. The pendulum could swing the other way because a couple of mistakes where the other team, if they took advantage of it, the Vikings could be 1-5. Stomp on teams' throats until they can prove to you that they can stop what it is that you're doing. This team should be dusting opposing teams. And the fact that they're 3-3, all right, that's the preferred worst case scenario. They are so much better than what they have shown so far through these first 6 games. All right, you can continue after the bye week with a clean slate. Start over. It requires coaching, execution. The defense, you'll take what you can get. But, man, this offense should be scoring 30 points a game.
I'll tell you, even though the Vikings aren't living up to expectations so far this season, I'll tell you what is. Chill Boys underwear. Specifically, Chill Boys long underwear. It's fall season. If you haven't slapped on a pair of Chill Boys long underwear, what are you even doing with your life?
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically dead to me.
Wow. I've got mine on right now with shorts on too, NBA style, and I'm going to tell you right now,
you look like Kevin Durant. Yeah.
I feel like I could actually shoot now. Wow. Which the last time I checked, I couldn't.
There's evidence.
Okay, no, I know.
Let's not go too far. Not go too far.
Anyway, the comfort today has been outstanding. Long underwear, great.
The most comfortable underwear we have worn. Chill Boys and chillboys.com. It's a Minnesota-based company, and they support us. So if you support them, you're supporting us, and you're supporting your boys. Chillboys.com. Also, I see that can of Surly peeking its eyeballs over the top of these comments on the YouTube channel.
Yes, Minnesota's favorite IPA, and as we've been talking about on this episode of Purple After Dark, Vikings back in action on Sunday. Sunday, a day full of football. I mean, noon to midnight. And so you're thinking to yourself, I got to make a beer run, Judd. Yeah. What should I get? You know what you should get. First of all, make it Surly. Second of all, I say make it a Surly Furious IPA. You can't go wrong. Even if the home team suffers a defeat on Sunday, you win if you're drinking these babies Surly Furious IPA.
Yeah. And by the way, we'll keep popping your comments up on the screen here. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel here, Purple Daily YouTube channel, just click that subscribe button and the like button to spread the word about the show. Also, check out Realistic Randy on YouTube as well. You can find his stuff multiple days per week. What do you? So we've spent a lot of time just talking about, we're urging the Vikings here to take a step, go win a primetime game, just get out of your own way and throttle down. In the end, Randy, if you had to make a prediction right now, what do you think the season looks like for the Vikings at the end of the regular season? Like, do you have faith that the things that you are urging them to do will come to fruition? Or do you think we will be talking about changes in like 3 months from now?
To be clear, I am a diehard fan. I love this team. No one can tell me anything when it comes to that. I want to see this team succeed. If Mike Zimmer is to pull this off and win a Super Bowl first in franchise history, I would be the first person to get out there and say, everyone knows I've been talking smack on this guy for like 3 years. I've been calling for his job for 3 years. I would love to see it happen. I'm Realistic Randy for a reason. I've seen this episode play for 7 years prior to this season. I have no reason to believe it's going to change. They're 3-3. They beat the Panthers and Detroit. Those were back-to-back wins. That's great. What I've seen over the last 7 years is when they go up against juggernauts of teams, when they go up against the big boys, whether it's the Packers led by Matt LaFleur, even Chicago, as goofy as they are, Matt Nagy still owns Mike Zimmer. Whenever they go up against juggernauts of teams, that's when this team falls apart. But when they go up against teams like, goodness, the Detroit Lions or, before this season, the Cincinnati Bengals, when they go up against teams like that, it's okay. Yeah, they'll go ahead and win those games pretty easily, which is why they'll flirt around with 8-8, 9-7. Maybe they'll get into the playoffs 10-6. There was that 1 year, 2017, they went, 13-3. I've seen this enough times to where, you know what? Show me something. Because right now, I'm just going to assume they're going to go 9-8, even though I had them going 10-7 to start the season. Yeah. But based off of what I've seen so far, okay, I've seen this before the past 7 years.
Have you guys ever seen a Vikings team where, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but where you've liked the personnel as much as I think we like the personnel on this roster and yet have so little faith of ultimate success? Because we've seen some just, meh teams, right? And you're just like, okay, they're not that good. But I'm hard pressed to tell you the last time that I actually looked up and down the roster and became more and more convinced. It's certainly not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. And yet Randy's right. Like, we should be talking about, with this roster construction, 11 wins. We should be talking about 12 wins possibly. Mm-hmm. And yet it feels like we're saying, well, I mean, they might go 2-2 and they'll probably win 9 games. I think it's criminal that we're actually contemplating the lack of ability to get the most from a team that, especially offensively, has it.
Well, I'll give you the third nerd stat of the show here. Get those nerds! Nerd! All right, here's another amazing one. So this season has basically played out in the same fashion as Mike Zimmer's entire career as Vikings coach, in that you can draw a line across the board. He loses to teams that finish the season with a winning record. He beats, like Randy said, he beats the teams he's supposed to beat more often than not. Like, there's the occasional Bills game from a few years ago. Like, there's, you're not going to go undefeated in those games. But again, first 6 games, what's the record? 3-3. What are the 3 losses? Well, the Bengals look like they're finishing above 500 now. They're 5-2, and they look fantastic offensively. Okay, the Browns. The Browns are hovering. I think if I had to bet, the Browns would find a way to finish above 500. They haven't been as hot as maybe people thought they would be. And then the Cardinals are almost a lock to be 500 already mathematically. Like, if they win on Thursday night, they're already to 8 wins, right? And so your 3 losses have come to teams that will probably finish the season above 500, which brings Mike Zimmer's record as Vikings coach, if those hold, to 17-42 against teams that finish the season with a winning record. And your next question is going to be, oh, well, how does that compare to other coaches? Our friend, Minnesota Researcher on Twitter, has done all of this. He's looked at all the coaches who've coached at least, I want to say, 3 seasons since Mike Zimmer started in 2014. Or like, I think it might be like all coaches who've coached like 4 seasons worth of sample size or something. Bill Belichick. So that for Mike Zimmer, that's a 29% win rate against winning teams. All right. Bill Belichick, 67%. Andy Reid, 58%. Pete Carroll, 57%. Mike Tomlin, 55%. Sean Payton, 50%. Jason, I'm going to skip down the list. Jason Garrett, who got fired 2 years ago, 38%. So he's 10% higher than Mike Zimmer. Dan Quinn, who got fired, 32%. Bill O'Brien, better than Mike Zimmer. So it's not too late to change it. You got 4 games right now. You can change it right now. You can push that. You can push that percentage up toward 35. Something higher. But that is his career as the coach, not being able to beat teams that win more than they lose, and the Cowboys are going to fit in that category Sunday.
I've been saying that for the last 3 years, and whenever I bring that up, it's, well, look at his defense. Well, is he a defensive coordinator or is he a head coach? He needs to be a head coach. Other teams, they have to face other tough teams too. Why is it that when the Vikings do and they lose to those teams, I'm not even... See, the thing is, we can go off of that stat and say that's unacceptable, which it really is. I'm going to go deeper than that. It's not that you consistently lose to winning teams. It's that your team looks unprepared. They look like the week leading up practice and everything, studying film, all that good stuff leading up to that game against that winning team. They consistently look like they don't belong on the football field. That's the problem. But in 2018, after week 17, you lost to the Bears a chance to make it to the playoffs. Mike Zimmer got on the podium and said, yeah, I know the season, it didn't go the way that we planned, but look how good my defense was. The fact that he's gone this long unaccountable or unaccounted for by the ownership speaks volumes. The standards needs to be raised for this franchise. We are just begging for a championship. Just look like you belong and we'll be happy. There are plenty of times, wins and losses, they come a dime a dozen and things happen you can't control. Sometimes the pendulum swings or the coin flips against you. It happens. But I am so sick and tired. This is why I am so scared for Sunday night. I think the Vikings will beat the Cowboys, but it's prime time. It's on the national stage. It's against a good team. Everything that goes up against Mike Zimmer as a head coach, just do it. And you know what I don't want? I don't want where they pull off the victory, beat the Cowboys, and look what we did. Everybody that was talking all that smack, you know what off. And then the following week, oh, guess what? We're on that emotional high, and we didn't have
the emotional.
I'm sick and tired of seeing that stuff. This team is too damn talented to be average, and that's what they've been for 7.5 years. Average.
And right now, I think that this is one of the most underachieving teams Mike has had for the talent. I really do. And guess what, too? So, like I saw, and we keep saying this, well, they almost beat the Cardinals. Well, the kicker that you brought in missed. So, like, that's not Greg Joseph submarine this team because he insisted on being the kicker and he missed. You brought him in. We all question that. Now, he made the field goal against Detroit. But again, that Detroit game, I think right now, among the first 6 games, I think it's the biggest indictment on this team and its lack of what you're talking about, the preparedness and the ability. I mean, it's the Lions. They are a complete and utter debacle. They're a mess. You had them at home. You should have run up the score. You should have been trying things out in that game to run up points to see if they would work. And you barely beat them, and you almost blew it completely by melting down. So my whole point is this. You're lucky in a lot of ways to be 3-3 through 6 games. But when you look at the talent, When's the last time that Mike had a roster, and I'm not talking the defensive side, I'm talking both sides. When's the last time that Zimmer had a roster with this team that we thought was this good and has given you 3-3? And also Dalvin might have got screwed, but he dropped the ball too. So like I'm really tired of this narrative of, well, they almost. This isn't an almost roster. They didn't go out during the summer months and add guys to say, well, we almost. They went out to add guys to win. And you have a chance to come back now and win. I'm convinced of that. The ball's in your court, Mike. What are you going to do?
Well, and to answer Judd's question, I mean, 2018 was similar to that. 2018, you were coming off the number one defense. You had Thielen, you had Diggs, you had a healthy Dalvin. Kyle Rudolph, although wasn't the same tight end, was still a reliable player. Kirk Cousins was brought in here. I mean, the parallels to 2018. But sure, Judd, but like just to answer the question of personnel and not living up to the team's expectation with being a 500 team, that's the 2018 Vikings to a T.
But the big difference there is Kirk Cousins was new and struggled and dropped the football at times. 2018, I put a lot of that on Kirk's plate. What I'm saying now is I've shifted that. I'm putting it on Mike's plate because Kirk Cousins is having for him, phenomenal season. Capitalize on it.
And if they really want to thump their chest, because, they can run this table in November and possibly thump their chest a little bit. They can. I mean, this gauntlet of a schedule in November is going to be tough. But then in December, you still have the Rams at home. You still got to go to Green Bay in Lambeau in January in primetime. Like if they really want to thump their chest and say, "See, we told you so." And I first thought that would be, well, that will happen if you win 4 out of 5 or run the table in November. If you beat the Rams at home the day after Christmas on week 15, and then you go into Lambeau and basically clinch the division, and maybe, because at that point, if you're rattling off that many wins and what we want, maybe even are in the talks to wrap up a number 1 seed, okay, that's when you can maybe talk about it. Maybe. And that's January 2nd, 2.5 months from now still.
I think what's amazing is the picture you just painted is fiction to a lot of Vikings fans. It's like, well, I mean, come on, dude. Let's not go crazy with expectations. All right. Put yourself in the shoes of a Rams fan right now or a Buccaneers fan. And I get the Buccaneers have Tom Brady, so we probably should just leave them out of the equation. The Ravens, the Bills, like these other teams that are going to be in the mix deep in the playoffs, when they see other great teams on their schedule, do the organizations and the fan bases look at, oh, man, look at these 4 games. All right, well, we're Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. Look at these 4 games on the schedule. Boy, if we can just go 2-2 and then get to this part of the schedule. It's like, no, they look at every game on the schedule. Ravens, Rams, the Cardinals right now, probably the same thing. They're looking at every game on the schedule and saying, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. We sharpen the pencil so much here on behalf of this team. And I like that this show and Randy, I love that we're sort of, no, doesn't mean that you're a bad fan or that you're bailing on your team, but go beat the Cowboys. The expectation should be that the Vikings win that game. And then the expectation should be that they go and beat the Ravens on the road. Let's not be afraid of lofty expectations. And I say that for the fans, and I say that for the organization, ownership to front office, down to head coach.
You know what? It's one of those things where if you're a team and you face the Bills or the Bucks or the Rams, in your head, you're saying, oh, man, we got to face this. This is a real tough team. What about the Vikings? Teams should be scared of playing Minnesota. You know good and well, anytime, especially when they play at home, US Bank Stadium, that fan base, are they not more dedicated? Are they not one of the more passionate fan bases in the league? I know every franchise can say that, but those fans, they love this team. We deserve more. And not just, well, we did enough just to squeak on by. Do what you need to do to win games. Coach and play to win the games. Teams should be scared of us, especially with this roster that we do have, especially on offense. Defense, we'll do what we can do. Everson Griffin, Daniil Hunter, pass rushers, tied for first in the league in sacks. That's great. We'll take what we can get from the defense, but this offense should be smoking teams left and right.
This comment on the screen here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, it's from Justin. Why? Why should I'm reading a quote here from Justin. Why? Why should the expectation be that? Do the Packers expect to beat the Cardinals? Yes. Mm-hmm. Their fans expect it. Aaron Rodgers expects it. Now Devontae Adams is out, probably. So, all right, it might be a weird week. But the answer is yes. Am I wrong? I know I got a bunch of Packer fans in my family. They expect to beat the Cardinals on Thursday. They're not going in saying, "Boy, if we can just look good and then get to the next game." No, they expect to beat a good team.
Yeah. And we also have a weird thing too among a lot of Vikings fans of almost being like, well, that's what the team does. So no, the expectation should be that Zimmer and Kubiak and the entire coaching staff and this team will have a plan and a way to beat the Cowboys. Not like, well, they tried. And there's almost, it's weird, and it could be our Scandinavian descent here, but we almost like fall into this whole thing of, well, I mean, they did their best. I mean, what more? I mean, that's what Mike
both teams played hard.
Yeah, both teams played hard. When it's like, no, the expectation for this team, look, we've seen good teams and we've seen mediocre teams and we've seen bad teams. And this has the potential to be a good team. It really does. They're 3-3, which is not great, but it's certainly not a disaster. And with the expanded playoff format too, we should have the expectation that making the playoffs for a franchise like the Vikings should be damn near a given now. There's 7 teams that get in. I mean, we are now to a point where the 7th team is going to be an okay team, not great. So our expectation should be, yes, this is going to be continually a playoff team. That's not the point. The point is, what do you do once you're there? Unfortunately, it's become difficult for us to fathom that could include a playoff run, which is a really sad thing.
Yeah. All right, Randy, we got a wrap here. Give us your final thoughts here. I think this has been therapeutic. I feel like most of these episodes have been pretty therapeutic. But going into this game, we got a handful of days here. Your final thoughts here on Purple After Dark.
I just don't know what to make of this team. They show you flashes when they are allowed to be aggressive, and then it's this team, they either dumb it down or play up based on the opponent that they're facing. Play Minnesota Vikings football. If you play Minnesota Vikings football, if you're really maximizing and utilizing the talent that you have on this team, you should easily win 12 games this season. You should go 12-5. I have no idea what to make of this team, and it fits because they're 3-3. It goes back and forth. Mm-hmm. They're on this average 500. You're so much better than that.
Yeah.
So right.
I just want one of these, man. I just want an awkward Kirk Zimmer exchange on the sidelines after the game is over. I want him to shake Zim a little bit.
It's a photo op now. It's a photo op. We love each other, father and son.
I love it so much.
I don't care if they fist fight. Just win football games.
Oh, man. This is Purple After Dark every Tuesday night here as part of Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Presented by Surly Brewing Company. You can find Realistic Randy on his YouTube channel. Go check that out. He's one of the OG callers from Vikings Vent Line back in the day and doing his thing here on his own channel too. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and being part of this Purple Daily community. Thanks to all the commenters popping stuff on the screen. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for a little Write That Down session and admitting that we were wrong once in a while. That's right. We do that once in a while. See you guys.